Hello, good evening and welcome to the United Stand Big Collar. I'm Mark Goldbridge. I hope we're all doing very well this evening. Sorry I'm a little bit late. I had a few problems with the audio, so we got going in the end. I hope you're all doing very well though, as Cristiano Ronaldo looks to move on from Manchester United in January. And again, I find myself wondering if I'm actually live, because I've got no idea why I wouldn't be. I am live. Bloody YouTube. I tell you what, I'm sure they do it on purpose sometimes. Let's put a bit of a delay on so he thinks he's not live. Right, lots to get into tonight anyway. The future of Cristiano Ronaldo, of course, we'll be talking about that. Manchester United still expects Ronaldo to leave. It's not really what we want to be talking about, but it still remains a big issue, and we've got some good information on this. But I spoke to somebody about this today as well. So Ronaldo leaving Manchester United in January is still very much expected, according to certain sources. We'll also be talking about Antony. Doesn't look like Antony is going to play again for Manchester United before the World Cup, but will go to the World Cup. He's not back in training yet, so we don't expect to see Antony back. Also, a little bit about a couple of targets that apparently Manchester United are not in for that we can cross off the list. And also don't forget, tonight I'm doing my Football Manager 23 career. I need to take this bloody shirt off. I'm so fucking hot. I won't be doing it now. Don't worry. Don't need to panic about that. But I'm doing my Football Manager 23 first episode. Links in the chat on Twitch straight after this stream. So there we go. That's why I'm a little bit early tonight. But lots to get into. Mark, I don't need to do that. I am doing Football Manager at 7:30. I do actually wish people would bloody listen. I've only told people about 6 times over the last 24 hours what I'm doing tonight, and you still get, no Football Manager tonight, Mark. Oh, you're not doing Football Manager then? No, I am. Hello, I said I was doing it straight after the United Stand at 7 o'clock, and I've never deviated from that. Right, let's get on. Let's go. Right, so thanks everyone for tuning in. We're going to start off about Cristiano Ronaldo. You may have seen this afternoon. I spoke about, was it this morning or yesterday's morning show? We spoke about Plettigol, who is a German Bundesliga-based journalist who was quite good over the summer in relation to Manchester United, and he'd mentioned that Manchester United were interested in Vlahovic, because I think we spoke about it yesterday with Charlie, didn't we? So that's sort of the backdrop to this story, because he has said today that Manchester United still expect Cristiano Ronaldo to push for a move in January. Love the content, Mark, says Abia, thank you very much. So still expecting Cristiano Ronaldo to push for a move in January. This is interesting because he also, in the same sort of article or update, said that Manchester United do not have any interest in Felix and Vlahovic. So that to me is quite encouraging as a source, because it means that yesterday we heard that United might be interested in Vlahovic, and then today the same source is saying that United aren't in for Vlahovic, which sounds like he's gone and clarified something or been contacted by somebody to clarify something. And as part of that, they've said about the Ronaldo thing. Now, Cristiano Ronaldo and Manchester United, I suppose there's a big backstory here, but the line that really clicks home for me and resonates with something I was told today is that Manchester United still expect Cristiano Ronaldo to push for a move in January, which will then, I suppose, open the door for Manchester United to do some business in January. Happy birthday to moderator Smutty, says Renate. Happy birthday to Smutty, legend of the chat. So basically, in a very, very simple way, if Cristiano Ronaldo moves in January, United will make a move in January. Now, I don't know whether that's the carrot you want to bite. Would you let Ronaldo go in January for us to buy a striker? Personally, I want us to buy a striker in January anyway, regardless of whether Cristiano Ronaldo stays or leaves. But that seems to be the only way we'll buy a striker in January, is if Cristiano Ronaldo leaves in January. So that is quite interesting. And I was speaking to somebody about this today, and we were talking, and it's a good source. And what they basically said to me was that with George Mendes, there's no guarantee that he won't do what he tried to do in the summer again, that he will look for that move. It's no secret that Cristiano Ronaldo was looking for a move in the summer, and it's no secret that no move was found that was mutually acceptable to all parties. Now, what we understand happened in the summer is that Manchester United wouldn't let Cristiano Ronaldo go by paying him off. They didn't want to do that. They wanted something in return, because paying him off just seems silly to pay off your player of the year and top goal scorer, to pay him off and let him have what he wanted. So Manchester United's stance, I think, in the summer was, if you can find a move that suits us, then we'll look at it. But we're not just going to pay you off and let you go. Now, whether that's right or wrong, I think many people would say it's right. But there is no doubt that George Mendes was looking for a move for Cristiano Ronaldo out throughout the summer. He didn't get one. And the expectation is that that could happen again in January, and there could be a move for Ronaldo in January. Now, where he would go, Pletigol mentioned Sporting Lisbon. I don't think that's particularly viable because they're not in the Champions League. Surely Cristiano Ronaldo wants to go somewhere where he can score in the Champions League because Messi is closing up on him. And knowing what Ronaldo's like, he's not just going to want to not play in the Champions League and let Messi have a free hit. But where he can go in January that's a Champions League team, I just don't know. Love the content, Mark. Sent you an email regarding possible interview for a class assignment. It's Gabrielle. I'll have a look at it, Gabrielle, but at the moment, I'm not even going to lie. I haven't got enough hours in the day, mate. Well, I'll have a look at it, though. Man United have a huge price on Ronaldo, says Dubby Guy. Millions raised by him being here on sponsorship deals. So I think it's interesting. I think it's really interesting because I don't think that at this point anybody can say that the Ronaldo situation is resolved. We've got a player that stormed off a couple of weeks ago. We've got a player that, more importantly to me, has only scored 3 goals this season, I think, and one of those was a penalty and one of them was a rebound. The goal against Everton was fantastic. He's not scoring enough goals. Is he happy? Probably not. Would Manchester United let him go? Probably. But I think it's all going to come to a head in January, and it will be very interesting to see if there are any takers. And if there are going to, and if Man United don't know what's going to happen in January, then the encouraging thing for us is, if I said to you, Cristiano Ronaldo is going to leave in January, then you're going to look at it and go, well, we need to have a replacement, because if we lose Ronaldo in January, we can't just go for the rest of the season 3 times a week with Martial. It's not good enough. So the encouraging thing is, if you're looking for Manchester United to buy a striker in January, we are definitely looking for one, 100%. All this, we're officially closed and we're not even looking at players. It's a nonsense. Of course we are. There has to be a plan B. I'm sure if you spoke to Leeds, they've probably got something. They won't admit it publicly, but they will have something in place in case they need to sack Jesse Marsch. They probably won't be looking to sack him now, but you've got to have a contingency plan. Manchester United, well, I say Manchester United have got to. I mean, some people would say they won't, but they have to have a contingency in place, because if Ronaldo does find that move in January and wants it, and United are open to it, then he goes. Who do you bring in? So I would agree with Nesta that we need a striker regardless, but I think it's interesting how we're going to have to look for one in January just in case Ronaldo goes. And I do think that it will be up in the air. I don't think United can sit there in November and December and go, yeah, we're not doing anything. They will have something lined up, because Ronaldo might not have anything lined up until January himself. He's going to go to the World Cup. We know what Ronaldo's like. He'll focus on the World Cup. If he has a decent World Cup, then people might go, you know what, in the shop window, let's have a look at that deal. Let's go to Manchester United. Maybe a Bayern Munich would. I don't know. So I think it's going to be very interesting how it pans out. But, you know, it is a stark reminder. I don't think it's necessarily a negative reminder, by the way. I don't think it is. I think the negativity was 2 weeks ago when he stormed off and we were like, what the bloody hell is going to happen? Will he come back? I think even if we get to January and it's, you know, mutually acceptable that he leaves and we bring in a replacement, some people would say that's the right time to do it. In fact, I'll run a poll on this. How would I word this? Would you let Ronaldo go in January, I suppose? Would you let Ronaldo go in Jan? Yes or no? Let us know in the chat. But I suppose the encouraging thing is, if he does find the move, then we're going to have the replacement lined up, which means we're going to have a replacement lined up anyway, just in case. And who that will be, you know, who knows? Who knows who it's going to be? But yeah, I mean, look at it from Ronaldo's point of view. Do I think he wants to go? I personally would say, and you can't take this to the bank. You can't just sit there and go, well, Goldbridge thinks he's going to stay till the summer, so let's not bother scouting any strikers just in case in January. You can't do that, because it's like the flip of a coin. My inclination is that he will stay until the summer, because I think the same problem might occur in January, that people will just go, I don't know whether I want to take him in January. I'll have a look at it in the summer. So I think he'll end up staying till the summer. But I also would agree that George Mendes will be looking for something. It's certainly not a scenario where Ronaldo's waiting for someone to pick up the phone. It's a scenario where George Mendes is going around Europe again, trying to get him a move. And there's a chance that could happen. My feeling is that it won't happen and we won't buy a striker till the summer. But if he goes, we will buy a striker in January because we have to. And that's interesting because we've got 80% of you saying you would let Ronaldo go in January. And I find that interesting because if he goes in January, you've got to buy in January. And what you get in January is not necessarily what you get in the summer. So if you replace Ronaldo with Jonathan David, for example, in January because he's available, but if Ronaldo stays till the summer, you can get Osman. It's a different pond that you're fishing in, isn't it? So yeah, look, I can't give you the answer, but I think I think it's an encouragement. I've always said, haven't I, that I don't believe it. I don't believe that Manchester United are out of the January transfer window. I think that they probably would like to be out of the January transfer window. And I don't think there's a lot wrong with saying that you are out of the January transfer window. But it doesn't mean that we are. And I think that even if we spend nothing in January, I still think we will be preparing to spend money in January because we've got to look at a striker because of the Ronaldo situation. And I think we are looking at the right-back situation. And who knows what else might happen. Ronaldo, Donny, Sancho gone in January and 5 new players has killed. Yeah, that's not going to happen, mate. But maybe Donny will go in January. I don't know. Maybe that would happen. I certainly think I think Ajax would take Donny back in a flash, wouldn't they? But we'll have to see. I do think that the next 6 weeks are going to be very interesting as well. I think people probably will remember this. I love Ronaldo. I think it's right to do it from Ten Hag, says Tumbleweed. I think that what Ten Hag is going to do over the World Cup is assess that team and with all the evidence that he's got. And I'm sure he'll be sitting down with his coaching staff and he'll be going back over the games and he'll be going back over his own results. He'll be going back on his own selections. He'll be going back on his own tactics. And he'll be analysing every player in that squad and going, are they part of my long-term future? Are they part of my short-term future? Do I want to let them go now? Can I do that in January? Do I wait until the summer? And I think he'll then be having conversations, obviously, about renewals of contracts for people like David De Gea and Marcus Rashford and Luke Shaw. And I think he'll be making those decisions over the next few weeks. I certainly don't think he's made a decision yet on people like David De Gea and Luke Shaw and Fred and their contracts. But I think it's universally established that if the board said to Ten Hag, do you want to spend in January, he's going to say yes. I think the win for us at the moment is that I just absolutely think that United will have to be prepared to spend in January. I think so many things can go wrong. We could pick up a few injuries. But also, I think even on the striker situation, we might be forced to sign somebody in January if Ronaldo was to go. And I understand why Ronaldo wants to go, by the way. I'm not... I don't think this is a negative video in any sense. Ronaldo should retire in January, says Giles. That's not going to happen. It's not a negative observation in any sense of the word. I think we all very much know that there is a very, very frustrated Cristiano at Manchester United. I imagine Ten Hag feels exactly the same as well. There's a lot of frustration there. And I think that there may well have been a conversation about amicably getting it to January and then seeing what happens. In fact, I would hazard a guess that that's what's happened. I would hazard a guess that Ronaldo and Ten Hag, after the storming off the pitch, sat down and had a conversation in a respectful way. And basically, I would imagine it was something along the lines of, look, give me everything that you've got professionally from Ten Hag, and we'll look at this in January. And as we said in the summer, if an offer comes in that's suitable to us, you can go. And I think Ronaldo would respond with that and say, yeah, look, I'm sorry for what I did. You've got my 100% dedication and motivation for the cause. And we'll look at it in January. United aren't necessarily the bad guys in this, and Erik Ten Hag certainly isn't. The story from United's side has always been, if the right offer comes in, they'll let it happen. Now, whether the boundaries of that offer are right or not, we could argue about that all day. Hi, Mark. When's Football Manager 23? Says Yazin. Are you taking the piss? And straight after this stream. Could the club and Ronaldo agree to void his contract? It seems like it would be mutually beneficial for both, says Stephen. I mean, I suppose that's the next progression, isn't it? Would how do you get yourself out of this? Well, I suppose you get yourself out of this by parting ways. Now, the ideal scenario for United would be that somebody gives us 10 million for Cristiano Ronaldo and he goes. That's not going to happen anymore. It didn't even happen in the summer when he was Player of the Year and he'd scored 18 Premier League goals in a shit team. Somebody still wouldn't give us 10 million for Ronaldo. And it makes me laugh because obviously we know that there is people in the fan base who are just negative about... They've got their agendas, haven't they? You know, the people don't like De Gea, they don't like Van der Beek, they don't like Ronaldo. But I always found it laughable in the summer that people slated Ronaldo and there'd been no football since the end of the season. And he'd scored 18 Premier League goals in the shittest United side I've ever seen and he was Player of the Year. And yet I spent time in the summer looking at people telling me how Ronaldo was shit. And I was like, but where's your evidence? Like, he's just scored 18 goals in a Premier League side that's shit. And he's been our Player of the Year. So that was the prime time you would want Ronaldo to move on. But of course, nobody would pay us for him because they all knew, whether it's Napoli or whoever, they all knew that George Mendes was desperately trying to get him a move. So people are like, well, if he's desperately trying to get a move, we're not going to pay. And I think that was probably a mistake by Mendes because his desperation to try and find a move led a lot of clubs to go, well, hold on, if he's so desperate for a move, we're not paying for him. And also, we're not paying £10 million for a player that we've then got to pay £500,000 a week to. Ronaldo was trapped. Ronaldo's like Harry Kane. He got caught in a golden cage, because he's paid so well at Man United that no one will pay to take him out. So the only way out of this situation, as far as I can see, is if we pay him off to go, which we won't do, and I don't think we should do, which if someone pays us money to take Ronaldo, which they won't do, and therefore that leaves what Stephen said, which is mutually agree to parting of the ways, where we don't pay Ronaldo anymore. It's sort of like from January the 31st, you're not getting any wages, and Ronaldo walks away and doesn't get any compensation. That's probably the best thing. It's a free transfer, isn't it? Termination of contract, free transfer, whatever you want to call it. That's probably the best thing to do. But for Ronaldo's side, he's under contract until June next year, being paid £500,000 a week. So he's walking away from millions of pounds. And the club that takes him isn't going to pay him what we pay. So Ronaldo's then got to go, well, George Mendes will say, I've got you a move, but they'll only give you 200 grand a week. So he's losing 300 grand a week for 6 months. Now, does he want to do that? With those in charge, they're going to want to replace Ronaldo cheap in January. Interesting to see who has 6 months left on their contract and see if we're linked, says Lee Berman. Well, we've been linked to Choupo-Moting from Bayern, who's out of contract in the summer, but apparently Bayern want to extend. I mean, I don't know whether I'd be taking him anyway. Joel Tomlinson, let the GOAT be GOATs. I'll tell you what, I was at Old Trafford today. You might have seen my Instagram. They've got the number 7 banner outside the stadium at the moment. Ronaldo, Cantona, Robson, Beckham. Yeah, check it out on my Instagram. But Ronaldo would probably get a decent signing on fee, says Peter Nielsen. Look, I suppose the way I look at this now, I think after Ronaldo stormed off, that was it for me. That was like, that wasn't it for me that I don't love Ronaldo, because I do. I mean, God bloody hell, this has been called the Ronaldo stand at times. But that was it for me where I was like, okay, there comes a time. It's like an unhappy relationship, isn't it? It doesn't matter how we want to dress it up. There comes a point where you've just got to go, this isn't working. And I'm definitely at that situation with Ronaldo and United. It's time to resolve the issue, and resolving the issue is not going round and round in circles with him back on the bench, which I think he's going to be. So there has to be a parting of the ways in January, and it has to be amicable. But how it will get resolved, I don't know. I am unsure. There is mutual agreement that United will not activate that plus 1 year after the 2-year contract, says Mojo. I mean, yeah. I suppose when you look at the Ronaldo situation in a grown-up way, which is what I was trying to do there, is there any chance that we are going to activate that 1 year contract that we've got at the end of May for another year? And realistically, I just don't think we can. I do think that Ronaldo's got something to offer to the Premier League. I don't think it suits what Ten Hag is trying to do. And not because he doesn't press from the front or he's 37. I just don't think it fits in with where we're going over the next 3 years, which is on a roller coaster ride, trying to rebuild a football club from top to bottom. And I don't think that suits Ronaldo. And I don't think Ronaldo didn't come back to United for that. Ronaldo came back naively to Manchester United under Solskjaer to go and win things. And we never did it. So I think there's just two very different journeys. I think Ronaldo, I still believe that if Ronaldo was playing up front for Manchester City, he'd score goals because they create so many chances for him. But we don't score many goals. And some people want to say, well, we don't score goals because we've got Ronaldo up front. We don't score goals because we've been crap at scoring goals for a long time. We don't score goals because we're not very creative. That's why we don't score goals. So we don't even suit an out-and-out goal scorer at the moment. We need to be our number 9. I suppose the best way of saying this is Manchester United wouldn't work with Haaland in the team. And people will go, oh, what's he on about? They'll be spitting out their dinner. We wouldn't work with Haaland because Haaland might only have 5 touches in a game, but he'll score 3 goals. Haaland's not really a link-up player. He's not really a hold-up player. Haaland is a penalty box player. He's powerful. He's quick. He finishes. Does that suit the way Man United play at the moment? No, it doesn't. So it's certainly not going to suit Ronaldo. What we need in a number 9 at the moment, we don't need a goal scorer. We need a grafter. We need almost a false 9. The way we're playing, we've got to fight to be creative in the final positions. And the goal scorer is the cherry on the cake. Look at Haaland at Man City. He's the icing on the cake. That signing is the icing on the cake. He's got an amazing team, Pep, and now he's got a goal scorer. He didn't have that before. He had Jesus playing up front or Sterling up front, whatever, or even people like Bernardo Silva as a false 9. He's now got a cherry on the cake, icing on the cake, striker. United have got a striker. It's a declining striker, but he's still a striker. But we don't work with the striker because we just haven't got the creativity. You can't let Ronaldo leave without a replacement. We're light up top as it is, says Damien. And that's what I was trying to say there. I think there is a positive. There is a positive. Of course there is a positive. Is that this uncertainty, as I've said before, I'm not writing off Man United doing business in January. I think there are a few journalists that are, and they're saying United aren't planning on doing business in January. But I think that's just a line. I don't think United are planning on doing a business in January. But they will be planning. Because they have to plan. Because something might become available in January that they're not aware of. I think there's this perception that United are just sat there ignoring the January transfer window, going, no, we're not doing anything until the summer. But what you've got to realise is, even the stuff they're planning for the summer, they'll be planning now. What if a right back that they're planning to get for the summer suddenly becomes available in January? They'll probably do the deal. So there's many permutations, but I'm not writing the January transfer window off for many reasons in 2 or 3 positions. I still think right back could happen and striker certainly could happen. And I do think it will be dependent on Ronaldo, because I think if Ronaldo doesn't go, United will avoid buying a striker and try and get through to the end of the season. But the question you've got to ask yourself is, are we better off moving Ronaldo on in January or moving him on in the summer? And the simple interpretation is, are we better off with Ronaldo from January to May, or are we better off with a different striker from January to May? But you've also got to remember, the striker you get in January is probably going to be different to the striker you get in May, because some of the people that you buy in May won't be available in January. So it's very interesting. Tony says, forgive me for being naive, but why have great wingers, Antony, Sancho, etc., who don't put the ball in the box, run down the wing, beat players, then play it back to midfield? What am I not getting? Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think we've seen enough of Antony yet to sort of say that he's not somebody who puts crosses into the box. He certainly did it at Ajax, especially last year. Last year with Sebastian Haller. Jadon Sancho is a bit of a mystery, I think, to anybody at the moment. Yeah, I mean, they're not fit, and are they, to play at the moment? So it's easy to say that they're not doing what you want them to do. I mean, on Antony, there has been an update on Antony Tate. So 80% of you would let Ronaldo go in January, which sort of answers the question I was just on about there. Football Manager is starting soon, straight after this. So I think it's the Brazilian fitness person has said that he had a hip flexor tear or something like that. I think that's right about Antony. There might be people in the chat who know better than me. He's not back in training yet, but they're confident he's going to be back for the World Cup. Doesn't help Man United. We're back in the Varane zone, aren't we? It doesn't look like we're going to see Antony play against Fulham. And this is the problem with the World Cup, isn't it? Like, I want Varane to go to the World Cup because it's probably his last World Cup. But what does it do for Man United? It's not beneficial for Manchester United, really, is it? And I want Antony to go to the World Cup because he's in his early 20s and it's a World Cup for Brazil, and we know how passionate the Brazilians are about playing for Brazil, and it's a great opportunity for him. I want to see him coming on for Brazil or starting for Brazil in the World Cup. But it is a hip flex, this is Himanshu, yeah. But I look at it and I go, but I really need him to play against Fulham. And it just doesn't sit right that he probably won't play against Fulham to make sure he's ready for the World Cup. And I'm like, I know you can't do that. It's not like an international break where there's a couple of friendlies where you can go, you're not going on the international break because you're not fit for us. If you want to go on the international break, you've got to play against Fulham. This is a World Cup. There's no way that Ten Hag is going to say to Antony, if you don't play against Fulham, you're not going to the World Cup. It's just not going to happen. And the World Cup's a lot longer as well. So it's probably realistic that Antony won't be fit properly to train until next week. So therefore he can't play against Fulham, but he can go to the World Cup. But we need him for Fulham. But it doesn't look like he will. He's not back in training yet for United. Of course, he might train tomorrow, but then it's like he hasn't trained for like nearly 2 weeks. Is it worth throwing him in against Fulham? So yeah, it is an interesting one, it's just the stupidity of this World Cup and where it's been placed, really. Personally, I'd let him go if he wants to. No point in keeping a striker that may not give his all. He's forced to stay, plus free up some wages, says Oliver Cook. And what was this one? Do you think Ronaldo will retire if he wins the World Cup, says Vivek? I don't think Ronaldo's retiring anytime soon. I mean, I think Ronaldo will still be playing football at 42. I think he'll go MLS. I don't know where people would talk about Ronaldo retiring. I don't get that feeling that Ronaldo's going to retire for a very long time. Ronaldo is one of the fittest players that the world's ever seen. Why would he retire early doing something that he loves? What's Ronaldo going to do when he retires? And be a pundit, be a manager? He's got to keep playing, and he wants to keep playing. That's part of his frustration at United. He wants to play. You can't knock him for that. A few people have said, what would you do? And Himanshu says, what's your thoughts on Luke Shaw demanding a 5-year deal? You've got to say no. You've got to say no. And if somebody wants to offer him a 5-year deal, then let him go. You can't be giving a 5-year deal to Luke Shaw. It's too long. The injury problems, his age, we shouldn't be giving out a 5-year deal. Because the problem with the 5-year deal is, and in no way am I comparing Luke Shaw to Phil Jones, but we gave Phil Jones a 5-year deal and he's been injured for most of it. I wouldn't give Luke Shaw a 5-year deal, but United aren't definitely brilliant at doing contract negotiations. I want Luke Shaw to stay, but I don't want to give him a 5-year deal. And he's already on good money as well. And he had a bad season last year. So what would I do for Ronaldo? What would I do with Ronaldo? Somebody just said. Well, it's not as simple as saying I'd let him go, because there are levels to that. I think I would do what I think Ten Hag is going to do. I think he would just say, if you can find a move and it works for us, I will let you go. So if I get a phone call in the second week of January and Bayern Munich say, look, we'll take Ronaldo off your hands for nothing and we'll pay his wages from tomorrow, and Ronaldo wants to go there, I'd let him go. It doesn't impact on us at all. We're not in the Champions League, and we might not be in the Champions League next year. So if Ronaldo goes and starts scoring goals in the Champions League and the Bundesliga, it doesn't impact us at all. We're never going to get a fee for him. They've took his wages on. So if that happens in January and Ronaldo says, yeah, that's good for me, and Bayern Munich want to take the wages over, I just go, off you go, all the best. You are a legend. Goodbye. But I'd have to have, and he will have, the ability to turn around to the board and say, right, Ronaldo's gone. I think that's the right thing for us. It's the right thing for him. Where's the replacement? And it's got to be there in January. And I think that's the best case scenario. And as I said, I don't believe that this is a situation where, as fans, we need to start moaning and crying and being bitter and being 50-50 and being divided. I think we just need to be mature. I was talking about this with somebody the other day. Actually, I was outside Old Trafford today, and somebody stopped me and had a chat, and they were talking about the game at the weekend, and they said, how did you feel? I said, really disappointed, but saw it coming a mile off. You can't play Thursday night with 10 players and play again at Sunday lunchtime against a team that's got a new manager and has had a week off and is playing at home. It was almost inevitable that we were going to lose. I don't like it. It's very disappointing, but we've just got to take it and move on. I don't like it, but that's where we are at the moment. We can't do that. And again, the same situation with Ronaldo. I don't like the fact that he's not scoring the goals, he's not happy, it's not working out. But we're trying to build something, and I get it why he wants to go. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I get it. And I get what Ten Hag wants to do. And I think ultimately I would be saying to Ronaldo, we don't need to fall out about this. You've got an agent. Get him to find you the move that's not just for you, that suits United, and you can go in January. And I'll be turning around to John Murtagh and Richard Arnold and saying, look, he might get that move in January and we'll have to say yes. So you better make sure you've got this deal ready to go. Could be Cody Gakpo, could be Jonathan David, could be something we don't know. And I think that's the grown-up way of approaching this. But the reason I wanted to talk about it is that I'd spoken to somebody this morning about this, which had more or less been about that United expect George Mendes to be looking for a deal in January. And if that deal suits United, they wouldn't be opposed to doing it. Which then leads to the conclusion that if United are thinking like that, which they are, then they have to be thinking about buying in January. Because if Ronaldo goes, they've got to buy in January. So all this, we're not going to buy in January, well, maybe we won't. But there's a chance we will, and we've got to prepare for that. Which for me is a positive. I mean, at the end of the day, the only real decision is, are we better off keeping Ronaldo till the summer and then buying a striker? Or are we better off letting Ronaldo go in January and buying a striker in then? And that's a conversation to have, because I do believe that Osimhen's an example of a summer striker. Jonathan David's an example of a January striker. But if you move Ronaldo on and bring Jonathan David in, he might get us to top 4. And Ronaldo might not. So it's not as simple as going, well, I'd rather wait till the summer and get Osimhen, because that January deal, if it's the right deal and it gets us top 4 and they're in the club earlier, ultimately it comes down to Ten Hag. It doesn't come down to what I think. Would I wait for Osimhen in the summer over Jonathan David? Yes, I would. But if Ten Hag wants a player that's available in January, for example, if Ronaldo gets his move in January and Ten Hag says, I want Gakpo and he's available, and we let Ronaldo go and we get Gakpo, and that's what Ten Hag wants, you do it in January. That's what you do. It seems like other clubs are planning to be proactive in January, while United only plan to act if the right opportunity arises, says Stephen. I think that's a fair assessment, Stephen. I think with United it is about reacting if the right deal comes up. Certainly, yeah. Certainly, yes. Anyway, look, I've got the Football Manager crew going mad at me saying, when are you starting? When are you starting? You were meant to start at 7:30. Of course, I was a little bit late getting started, but thanks everyone for tuning in. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. I have dropped the link in the video for Football Manager, and it's in the live chat as well. So join me for a bit of Goldbridge Ball. The season starts on Football Manager. It's out new today, and Goldbridge Football Manager Career Mode starts. I will be live there in a couple of minutes. There was something I wanted to say. Yeah, some good video content today. This afternoon, my Villa preview. Make sure you check that out. And this morning, I was outside Old Trafford talking about a bit of stuff as well. So, yeah, we're back tomorrow. Got the press conference and everything else on here. Take care, everyone. Smash a like, and I'll see you on Football Manager. Tune in and we'll continue the chat. I know there's some things that people want me to talk about that's been going on in the creator world over the last 24 hours. Quite a few things, so we might get onto that as well. I'll see you over there in a minute or two.